Snow white. The cottage after sundown. Rain hums on the roof. The forest is a soft, green hush. Inside the dwarf's cottage, the lamps are low. The table is scrubbed smooth and warm. A kettle ticks as it gathers courage to sing. Snow White ties on a simple apron and breathes in. Cinnamon, pine smoke, clean linen. She smiles. Tonight is for quiet work. Tonight is for kindness you can hold in your hands. She folds 7 small scarves. Each one has a neat edge, stitched with color that matches a heart she knows well. Grumpy's is not red like anger. It is russet like autumn leaves. Bashful's is the pale pink of dawn. Dopey's is a happy yellow that looks like sunshine spilled on the floor. She lays them in a row, smoothing them with the side of her hand, the way you smooth a child's hair. Outside, hooves tap once and stop. The deer in the trees are listening. A pair of birds flutter to the windowsill and tuck their heads beneath their feathers. They have flown all day. They will sleep here, safe from the rain, under the lip of the eaves. On the hearth, the kettle finally finds its song. It is a bright, hopeful sound. Snow White tips the lid, and steam rises like a soft veil. She pours hot water over dried apple slices and a curl of bark that smells like distant orchards. The air grows sweeter. She sets 7 tiny cups on saucers. They do not need to be filled tonight. It is enough to know they will be warm in the morning. She moves slowly. Every step is a care. She polishes the lantern glass with the corner of a cloth. She dusts the shelves where the wooden birds perch. She straightens a little frame that holds a pressed flower from last spring. When she touches it, the memory opens like a book. The forest roof bright with blossoms. Laughter that shakes the tree of the world. A happiness that did not yet know its own weight. She hums a tune that is not quite a song, more a smile with breath in it. The room listens. The raindrops slow to hear. The fire shifts and makes room for the melody. The birds decide that this lullaby is a good pillow. Tonight she has a small idea that will feel large in tired hands. The dwarfs worked all week. They went out before the light and came home with cold shadows across their cheeks. They do not ask for thanks, but thanks is a kind of food. She wants to set a table that says, without words, you are seen. She starts with a loaf, flour, water, salt, a spoon of honey. Her hands know the way without thinking. Push, fold, turn. The dough sighs under her palms. It remembers fields. It remembers sun. She tucks it under a cloth and lets it dream. While it rises, she peels apples, not too thin. The peels fall like red ribbons and make the bowl blush. She slices, sprinkles cinnamon, a whisper of sugar, a squeeze of lemon. The pie crust waits, patient and cool. When she lays the top crust down, she crimps the edges with a rhythm that feels like counting sheep. The oven opens its mouth to breathe warm air. Pie goes in. The cottage grows bright from the inside out. The rain outside decides it is not so important after all. It softens to a mist that strokes the window panes. Snow White gathers flowers from the jars she keeps near the door. Not the proud blooms, the little ones. The shy blue forget-me-nots. The white sprays that look like pieces of cloud. A sprig of green that smells like hope. She trims their stems and tucks them into 7 tiny vases made from acorn caps and twine. She lines them along the table. They bow to each other as if greeting and then settle still. There is a tiny squeak at the baseboard. A mouse peeks out with hands pressed together like a prayer. Snow White kneels and places a crumb on the floor. "It is raining," she says softly. "You may stay." The mouse blinks with grateful eyes and disappears with its gift. The dough has risen. It has a round, proud belly. She presses her fingers in and it sighs again, deeper this time, as if saying thank you. She shapes it into a loaf that will slice into 7 generous pieces and 1 small heel for whoever wakes first. She brushes the top with honey and water. The oven accepts it with an ember's nod. She steps to the window. Beyond the glass, the forest holds its breath. Owls blink like slow clocks. The path from the mine curls between trees, dark and wet. She imagines 7 shapes trudging home, murmuring, stamping boots at the threshold, shaking off their weight like rain. For a heartbeat, worry tugs at her sleeve. Has she done enough? Thanks should fit without pinching. Should never show itself off. She looks at the table. Scarves, flowers, a loaf that will crackle when cut. A pie that will steam and make faces glow. 7 cups waiting. She touches the back of a chair and remembers how it feels to be welcomed after work. The worry loosens like a ribbon and falls away. The door stirs. Not yet open, just thinking about it. She goes to the hearth and warms a small cloth. She will wipe coal from cheeks when they come. She will meet their tired with their rested. Footsteps pass by on the path and fade. Not theirs. A stag, perhaps. The night shifts to make space for the right ones. She sets 7 small notes beneath each scarf, a single word on each. Courage, patience, wit, joy, care, strength, truth. She does not decide who will get which. In the morning, each will sit where they feel drawn, the way birds choose a branch. The pie sings quietly to itself. The bread crust deepens to a soft brown. The kettle is calm again, a round, sleepy eye on the hob. Snow White moves through the room one last time. She tucks the birds with a fold of cloth across the windowsill. She places the mouse's crumb where the mouse will find it again. She pulls a blanket over the old rocking chair in case a dwarf nods off before making it to bed. Her own bed waits with its white pillow, stuffed with soft feathers, light as a sigh. She does not go to it yet. She sits at the table in the chair by the corner, where the light is a little secret. She closes her eyes and listens. Rain, fire. The small heartbeats of living things at rest. It is a choir made of quiet. She breathes in through her nose for 4 soft counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. She lets it go for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The breath makes the room feel larger and kinder. She does it again and again until time spreads like butter. At last she stands. She turns the lamp wick down until the flame is a pearl. The oven keeps its warmth to itself now. She opens the bedroom door and pauses to look back. The cottage is a bowl of light in the woods, and the woods are a blanket for the world. "Good night," she whispers to the table, the hearth, the window, the rain. "Good night," she whispers to the 7 who are on their way. "Good night," she whispers to you, as if you sat at the corner with her and shared the warm hush. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Cinderella. Midnight in the palace kitchen. The palace sleeps like a great animal that has found the perfect patch of moonlight. Corridors hold their breath. Tapestries listen to the silence. Down in the kitchen, a single lamp keeps watch. It rings a golden circle on the table. Flour dust floats in the light like tiny snow. Cinderella ties her hair back with a ribbon as soft as milk. She washes her hands in warm water, not too hot. The bowl holds the heat like a secret. Tonight will be simple. A loaf, a pot of warm milk, and a memory made with care. She measures flour by feel. The sack sighs when she lifts it. Salt between finger and thumb. A spoon of honey that turns slow as it falls. Yeast like a sprinkle of old magic. Water poured in a thin thread, shining like glass, then disappearing into the white. Her palms press and fold. The dough is stubborn for a moment, then friendly. She pushes it away and draws it back. It learns the shape of her hands. The table creaks once. The lamp hums gently. Mice in tiny mittens peek from beneath a copper pan, their eyes bright as raisins. She smiles without looking up and nicks off a bit of dough to make them a little roll of their own. The clock far above, the one that rules the day, is different at night. It does not push, it keeps. It marks the present the way a finger traces along a beloved page. Somewhere in the building, a guard clears his throat and remembers his child. Somewhere else, a maid dreams of a red dress. The palace is made of lives layered and layered, like cakes left to cool. Cinderella sets the dough to rise and covers it with a cloth that once was part of a gown. It is soft from many washings. It smells like soap and sun. While the dough sleeps, she takes down a small blue pot and sets milk to warm. The cold leaves it slowly. The surface gathers tiny clouds, then smooths again. When she stirs, the spoon makes a path that closes behind it, like a field of wheat in a wind. She thinks of home, of cinders under the grate, of hands that were tired long before the day ended. She thinks of a girl who made kindness out of scraps. That girl walks into the kitchen with her every time. She is not gone. She just has room now to lay down her burden and rest. The door to the pantry opens with a soft groan. A familiar face looks in. He is barefoot, hair rumpled, eyes amused. The prince carries his slippers in one hand and a folded napkin in the other, as if it were a treasure map. I followed the smell, he says, voice low as though he might scare the bread. Then you are a good tracker, she answers and gestures him in. He sets the napkin on the table. Inside is a wedge of honeycomb golden as noon. They move together in the small space and do not bump. It is a dance they never learned and always knew. He lays out 2 cups. She brings the milk. He drizzles honey, slow and careful, watching the way it laces the white. She slices a heel from yesterday's loaf and toasts it on the edge of the fire. When the new loaf is ready, it will crackle. For now, this simple piece is enough. The mice climb onto a saucer and sit in a tidy line, mittens folded in their laps. Their little roll cools beside them. One of them sneezes because flour dust tickled his whiskers. Cinderella gives him a dot of milk on the end of her finger, and he licks it like a promise. She glances at the clock and hears it chime once. The sound is round and friendly. Midnight used to mean hurry. Now it means pause. It means the world has put its heavy coat on a peg and is sitting down beside you. They eat without hurry. Warm bread, warm milk, honey that tastes like summer trapped in amber. He tells her that the moon on the east tower looks like a pearl on the crown of the sky. She tells him that the lamp oil in the kitchen smells like olives and rain. Neither needs to be grand to be worth telling. They talk like people who know that small things make a life. When the dough has risen, she turns it out, shapes it, and sets it into the hot mouth of the oven. In a moment, the room begins to change. Crisp edges of toast, deep, gentle brown, a sweetness that is not sugar but a memory. They prepare baskets. Not many, not heavy. A roll, a slice of cheese, a little jar of plum jam, a note that says, "Thank you." For the night guard who counts steps because he misses his wife's breathing beside him. For the maid who leaves a rose on the windowsill for anyone who needs to see something lovely before sleep. For the stable boy who hums to nervous horses and makes their ears relax. Cinderella ties each basket with string. She does not knot them tight. Kindness should be easy to open. She writes each note in clear letters with short words. Tired eyes should not have to try hard. The prince stands by the open window and breathes in the cool, starry air. "Do you hear it?" he asks. "What?" "The way the whole palace exhales, as if it knew you were awake and decided it could rest because you are watching." She feels her chest lift lightly. The thought sits in her like warm light. "Then I will keep watching," she says. The bread is ready. She takes it out and listens. It speaks very softly, crackling in small sleeves of sound. She sets it on a board and covers it with a towel so it can think about what it has become. They do not cut it yet. They wait. Some things are better after patience. They carry the baskets up the still stairs, their bare feet like brushes painting a path. They leave gifts at doors and on benches and by the sleeping dogs that guard without growling. Back in the kitchen, the mice have tucked their mittens into a thimble and curled around their roll. She turns the lamp wick down to a quiet pearl, the same size as the moon on the tower. The prince kisses her temple and goes, his steps as soft as promises kept. She sits, hands folded, and listens to her breath. In for 4. The milk's sweetness lingers at the back of her tongue. Out for 6. The room seems to breathe with her. The oven is a warm heart. The table is a lap. The walls are arms. She thinks without words of how far she has walked, of cinders and stars and the space between them, of being chosen and choosing back, of work done with love, of rest earned and shared. "Good night," she whispers to the dough that became bread. "Good night," she whispers to the baskets and the notes. "Good night," she whispers to you, whoever you are, wherever you have set down your day. Sit with her a moment longer in the quiet circle of light. There is a seat here. There always will be. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. A single lantern rises from a hand you cannot see. The flame is small and steady. It wears a glass coat and leaves a soft trail on the night. The rain in the forest steps aside to let it through. The palace roof catches its glow and shines back, gentle as a nod. Above the trees, above the sea, above the sleeping fields, the lantern travels. It does not hurry. It follows currents that know their craft. Owls watch it pass and think of nests. Ships far away see it and feel for a breath, less alone. You watch with your breath. In for 4. The lantern lifts, out for 6. The lantern drifts, in for 4. It finds a path of calm air, out for 6. It grows small as a quiet thought, and then smaller still, like a secret you keep to warm your heart. Somewhere, hands release another lantern, then another. Tiny suns learning how to float. They rise and spread like a map of kindness. The sky holds them all. In for 4. Out for 6. Rest. Aurora, a forest glade lullaby. The path to the glade is soft with needles and old leaves. The trees lean in close, not to crowd but to shelter. Somewhere a brook talks to itself, cheerful and low. The air smells like moss and last year's rain, stored away and brought out again. Aurora slips into the clearing where the grass grows like a pillow. Bluebells tilt their cups and listen. A robin hops twice and decides she is safe. The 3 fairies are already here. Flora has a bundle of quilt squares bright as summer fruit. Fauna carries a basket of honey cakes, small as buttons. Merriweather fusses with a spool of thread that has a mind of its own. Sit, Flora says. Rest, Fauna adds. No, here, Merriweather insists, patting a patch of moss as if it were a chair. Aurora laughs softly and sits where she is told. Her gown sighs across the green. The fairies set about their industrious calm. Flora arranges the squares and decides none match and all belong. Fauna sets tea to steep over a tiny flame no bigger than a pearl. Merriweather stitches something that looks like a blanket for a mouse, and then another that could wrap a bumblebee. A faint worry pricks under Aurora's skin. It is not sharp. It is just there, the way a bird sometimes flicks a feather that has fallen out of place. She wonders if dreams remember her name when she is not in them. The old sleep was heavy and cruel. This sleep is light as a petal. Still, sometimes the memory of being lost inside her own quiet knocks at the edge of her thought. She lays her palm on the earth. It is warm from the day. She closes her eyes and listens to its slow song. The ground hums like a mother who has hummed since before there were words. The sound goes up through her bones and into her chest. The worry opens like a hand and lets go. Birds gather, not in a rush in a choosing. A wren on a twig, a lark on the low branch, a thrush that decides the edge of her skirt is a fine place to be. Aurora speaks to them without speaking. Hello, I am here. You are here. That is enough. She hums a melody she remembers from before she knew what remembering was. It is a gentle line, not terribly sure of itself, but brave in small ways. The birds pick it up and add feather-like notes. The sound moves like light through leaves, shifting, soft, kind. Flora, without looking up, says, "We brought blessings." Fauna nods. Small ones, but many. Merriweather threads a needle and points it toward the sky like a baton. We will not wake the world, only smooth it. Flora takes from her pocket a pinch of powder that smells like sleep after rain. She blows it gently toward Aurora's hair, for dreams that know your true name. Fauna sets a honey cake on Aurora's palm, for sweetness that does not ask for anything back. Merriweather touches the tip of Aurora's ear with a thread, for listening to your own quiet. The blessings land and dissolve. They do not glitter or flash. They sink in like heat from tea. The breeze arrives, late and apologetic. It moves the grass and bows the bluebells. It says something in a language of small sounds Aurora leans to hear. Her name is in it, not as a call, but as a reassurance. Aurora. Aurora, not a shout. A rocking. She smiles. The worry breathes out and forgets to come back. She takes a honey cake and breaks it into 4. 1 for each fairy, 1 for the robin who cannot quite believe his luck, and then believes it completely. Tell us a story, Fauna asks, licking honey from her fingers like a child. Aurora thinks. There are big stories with curses and kisses, and years that fold up like sheets. Tonight is for small ones. Once, she says, a dewdrop fell from a leaf and did not want to let go. The leaf said, "You will like the moss." The moss said, "You will like the root." The root said, "You will like the soil." The soil said, "You will like the river." The river laughed and said, "You will like the sea." The dewdrop let go. The leaf missed it and was glad for it both. And in the sea it looked up and saw the leaf in the sky, which is what we call the moon. Flora wipes her eye with a square of bright cloth. Very good, she says, as if grading a paper she liked. Merriweather pretends not to cry. It is the moss, she says briskly. The moss always gets me. The afternoon tilts into evening the way a book leans when you are almost done. The fairies' quilts grow in a little stack. They will go to the burrow where the rabbit mother keeps her babies lined up like beans. They will go to the hollow in the oak where the owlets jostle and pretend not to. They will go to the hedgehog who sleeps under the rosemary and dreams of safe tunnels. Aurora lies back on the grass. The sky opens above, vast and close both. First star, then second, then 10. She knows the constellations by heart, but tonight she lets them be just lights. She lifts her arm and traces a slow snowflake in the air. Her finger does not leave frost. It leaves a feeling like cool water. The breeze says her name again. Not a reminder now, a lullaby. Aurora. It stretches the syllables into a gentle line, and the line becomes a swing for her thoughts to rock on. Stay, Flora says to the evening. Fauna nods. Merriweather commands, behave to the night, and the night takes it as a compliment. Aurora breathes. In for 4, the scent of moss and honey and thread. Out for 6, the sound of birds settling and fairies muttering about proper seam allowances. In for 4, the calm that comes when no one needs anything right now. Out for 6, the knowledge that when someone does, she will rise and it will be gentle. Her eyes close like petals. The glade holds her the way a palm holds a pearl. The fairies keep sewing, honest and small. The stars get on with their patient business. Good night, she says, almost asleep. The word leaves her mouth and curls up on the moss beside her like a cat. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Ariel. Tidepool lullaby. Low tide lays the shore open like a book. The pages are pools rimmed in stone. Each holds a small world that does not know it is small. Anemones breathe with tiny fingers. Starfish pretend to be stars. Snails write slow secrets. No one is in a hurry to read. Ariel sits on a flat rock that remembers the sun. The day's heat lingers and warms her legs. The sky is a deep blue bowl held in 2 hands by the horizon. Clouds drift like thoughts that choose to be kind. She misses the surface stars. The clouds have taken them tonight. Up there in the high dark, the points of light keep their steady company. Down here, she wants to show them to the little fish that have never seen a sky. She leans over the pool. Her hair slips forward and makes a red curtain. Her reflection looks back with sea-deep eyes. She smiles and touches the water. The skin of it shivers and settles. Flounder is in the next pool over, half asleep, his body a question mark unasked. "Are we stargazing?" he mumbles. "We are dream-gazing," she says. "Stars will visit in another way." Sebastian crawls onto a rind of kelp and peers up. "If I conduct the clouds, will they move?" he asks, half annoyed, half in love with his own joke. He raises a claw like a baton and gives the night a little tap. The clouds ignore him. He snorts. Then he yawns so wide he almost falls over and decides leadership can wait until morning. Ariel gathers shells from the edge. She does not pick the perfect ones. She chooses the ones that hum when she holds them to her ear. Each shell has kept a piece of the sea's song. When you tie them together, the music becomes a quilt. She threads a long strand of seagrass and strings the shells one by one, listening as she goes. The air fills with small sounds, not loud, just enough to remind you that life is busy even when it rests. She ties the strand between two rocks. It hangs low like a necklace on a sleeping giant. The shells bump gently and the tide answers. The shushing water finds a rhythm with the soft clink of shell on shell. "Close your eyes," she tells the tidepool fish. "Pretend the sky is here." They do not know what a sky is, but they know Ariel's voice. They close their eyes. Their sides flicker with little lights that rise and fall as they breathe. Ariel sings, not a song for stages, but one for stone and water. It is a simple melody, thin as a thread, strong as a net. It catches all the small sounds and ties them together. The shells join in. The tide hums harmony from the chest of the earth. Somewhere a crab keeps time by tapping a pebble. The clouds shift, not away but aside. They open a window only large enough to share. The moon peers through, curious and calm. It sends a pale path across the water and lays it on the pools. The fish open their eyes and see the sky and the sea. Then the light comes from below. First a spark like a wink, then thousands more. The plankton wake and begin their dance. Every movement draws a line of blue fire. Ariel moves her finger through the water and writes a name. The name glows and fades, leaving a feeling. She writes another and another. She writes the names of friends and the names of places and the names of wishes. Flounder swims through a curtain of light and turns himself into a comet. He laughs, and the laughter leaves a trail behind it. Sebastian forgets he is supposed to be serious and splashes his claw just once, and the once becomes a little starburst that makes him blush and mutter about dignity as he smiles. Ariel dips both hands and lifts them palms up. The water tries to stay with her. It spills in strings of light. It falls back and breaks into 1,000 blue sparks. The tide answers with a deep, slow sigh. The shells sing higher. The night becomes a choir that no one planned and everyone belongs to. She leans back on her hands. The rock holds her. The clouds close their window again, gentle, like a parent pulling a curtain for sleep. The plankton dim to their usual quiet, as if they had always been calm. The shells continue their clink, softer now. The tide breathes like a giant at rest. Ariel tracks the rhythm with her own chest. In for 4. The smell of salt and stone. Out for 6. The warmth that lingers on the rock. In for 4. The memory of light on water kept in the body like a coin in a pocket. Out for 6. The knowledge that stars are above and below and inside. She speaks to the small fish who have never been above. The sky is very far and very close, she says. You can see it in a puddle. You can see it in an eye. You can feel it when you are held. Flounder is already asleep, his breath's little gusts. Sebastian hums a lullaby he insists is not a lullaby, just a piece of music, but it falls soft in the ear and carries you. Ariel curls her tail around herself and lets the last of the day pass through her like a wave that decides to be a sigh instead. She thinks of friends in other places. A girl in a cottage with a pie cooling. A woman in a kitchen with flour on her cheek. A princess in a glade with a quilt of mouse-sized squares. The lantern from somewhere floats across her mind and goes on out to sea. Good night, she says to the tide. Good night, she says to the shells. Good night, she says, and her voice seems to ride the surface and slide away into the dark in a kind way. In for 4, out for 6. You're safe. You're loved. You're home. Belle, the Library of Whispering Pages. The door to the library opens like a gentle yawn. Warm light glows along rows of spines that have learned to wait. Dust motes drift like sleepy snow in the lamp's soft circle. The ladder stands ready, wheels quiet, as if it has already chosen the shelf it will roll to. Belle steps in with a small basket on her arm. Inside are 2 cups, a teapot wrapped in a towel, and a ribbon she found in the laundry, blue as a late afternoon sky. She sets the basket on the reading table. The table is old, but happy to be useful. It has the kind of scratches that come from a good life. Evening, she whispers to the books. It is a habit. When she speaks to them, the room calms even more, as if the words have weight, and the shelves are glad to carry them. She lights one more lamp. The flame settles without sputter. She reaches for a volume by feel. She does not choose the thickest or the grandest. She chooses the one whose cover is soft at the edges from being touched. It opens with the sigh of a friend who has found the right chair. Belle reads the first line silently and smiles. Then she closes it again and listens. In the hush, she can hear the faintest sound like a page turning far away. The books remember every voice they have met. Tonight she will add one more, but first there's tea. Mrs. Potts arrives on a little trolley with Chip wobbling happily, his Chip catching the light like a tiny crescent moon. Brought a splash of evening, Mrs. Potts says in her warm way. Thank you, Belle answers. The words feel right in her mouth. She pours. The steam curls like script in the air. Chip leans to admire his reflection, then leans back, responsibilities handled. Reading to someone special? Mrs. Potts asks. To everyone, Belle says and gestures at the shelves. That's very you. Mrs. Potts smiles and rolls away, humming a melody that sounds like home. Belle ties the blue ribbon around the book she has chosen. Not tight, not to keep it closed, just enough to say, this moment matters. She climbs the ladder for a second book and then a third. She selects one full of maps, the lines thin and patient. Then a slim volume of poems that look like small birds on a wire. The ladder wheels murmur along the rail, a soft please sound. A draft touches her wrist. She knows that draft. It comes from the high window where the vines are learning how to look at the stars. She lifts the latch. The pane opens a little, and night air slips in. Pine and stone and a hint of roses from the west garden. Belle sits with her collection. She lets her hands rest on the covers and thanks them quietly for waiting for her. She will read to the room, and the room will give the reading back to her. That is how it always feels. The stories listen while they speak. She opens the map book first. A river runs from top to bottom. It is not named. It does not need to be. She traces it with one finger. Cold country at the top, warm country at the bottom. Places in between that look like someone could make bread there and sit on a doorstep while it cools. We begin here, she says, and hears her voice land like a leaf on water. She tells the river how it bends and unbends, how it finds the lowest way, which is not the weakest way. She tells the hills how they roll without bragging. She tells the forest how it keeps the quiet that other things use. The story is simple. It is a walk through a picture. It is a kind hand on a shoulder. She closes the book, and the river keeps flowing inside her. She pours more tea and chooses the slim volume. The poems are small fires. She reads one about a lamp that is brave enough to shine and brave enough to dim. She reads another about a seed that takes its time and by taking time, saves itself from a storm. The words are soft, not because they are afraid, but because they know soft is strong too. Footsteps pause at the door, heavy, careful. Belle looks up. The beast stands there, hair a little mussed, eyes gentle, hands empty so he will not knock something over. The library likes him, and he is shy in the way of large creatures who wish to cause no harm. "I heard you," he says. "I hoped you would," she answers. He sits 2 chairs away, which is his way of sitting close. Belle turns a page slowly to give the air time to settle. She reads from the 3rd book now, the one with a cover worn like a favorite coat. It is a story about a person who is kind to one small thing and discovers that one small thing was a door to everything. Her voice is quiet. It does not echo. It goes out like a candle's breath and lingers. The beast rests his elbows on his knees and drops his shoulders. Relief is a kind of sleep. He is drowsy, not from the hour, but from being allowed to be unguarded. Chip is asleep in his saucer, a tiny snore that sounds like a bubble popping very slowly. From the far shelves, a book falls by accident and lands soft. No one minds. The sound is just another page turning. Belle feels the question arrive, the one that visits her now and then. Am I doing enough? She does not wrestle it. She sits with it at the table. She looks at the beast, at the lamp, at the books that have kept their watch through storms of day and night. She feels the warm weight of the teacup in her hands. The question loosens. Enough is a living word. Tonight enough is tea, 3 books, a window open to the roses, and a friend who can rest his eyes while her voice holds the quiet. She closes the final cover. The ribbon stays, a soft reminder. She blows across her tea and watches the steam drift toward the window as if it has somewhere kind to go. She breathes. In for 4. Paper, tea, polished wood. Out for 6. The hush that comes after a good line. In for 4. The gentle company of things that do not rush. Out for 6. The slow heartbeat of a room that knows its purpose. Good night, she says to the stacks, and means it for every letter that ever stood up on a page and did its work. She says it to the beast, whose eyes are closed now, his mouth relaxed, the corners soft as if he is about to say thank you in his sleep. She says it to you, wherever you read or listen, whatever shelf you lean against tonight. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Jasmine rooftop stars over Agrabah. The city has put its bright bracelets away. Day's bangles sleep in blankets of shadow. On the palace roof, the tiles are warm from sun that left hours ago. They release their heat slowly, like a story told in a whisper. Jasmine steps onto the rooftop with Raja padding beside her, tail sweeping the air. The breeze lifts the edge of her shawl and then lets it fall, polite as a court bow. Lanterns below mark the lanes with little islands of gold. The market is quiet. The last pears have been counted. The last rugs folded. A kettle somewhere sings one thin note, and then decides to hum instead. Aladdin lands without a sound, carpet folding itself like a contented cat. He grins wide the way he always has, but tonight the grin is smaller, truer, the kind that fits the night. I brought the stars, he says, and opens his hand to show nothing. It is a joke. They both laugh. Jasmine points up. The sky did it for him. She unties a small bundle. Inside are tiny glass lanterns shaped like seeds. They catch the moon and hold it. She strings them along the parapet, not in a line, but in the curve of a constellation she remembers from a story her mother once told. Aladdin helps, his fingers clumsy at first, then sure. Raja lies down and rumbles like distant thunder with no rain in it. Jasmine scratches the space behind his ear and feels his whole body say yes. I want to give the city a quiet gift, she says. Something to keep its heart slow. Aladdin looks over the edge. A child on a roof across the way holds a clay cup with both hands and lets the steam warm his face. A woman waters a plant that has survived the summer. A man ties his boat to a post and pats it as if it were a friend who came through. What if we draw the stars where everyone can see them? Aladdin asks. Here, Jasmine says, and gestures to the rooftops. Everywhere, he says, and spreads his hands, which still hold nothing and everything. They begin. Not with paint, with light. Jasmine lifts a lantern and lowers it to the parapet. She breathes in and out with it as if it were nervous. It grows calm in her hands. She sets it down where a star would be. Aladdin places another. They do not need to speak. They let the pattern tell them what to do. Below, a boy looks up and points. His mother looks up too, and her face relaxes in the muscles that usually worry. A guard pauses his patrol and counts the points. He loses track, not because there are too many, but because he forgets why he was counting. Jasmine ties a thin cord from one lantern to the next, not tight, not straight. The line follows an idea. It curves into an animal, then a flower, then a word only the rooftops know. The breeze reads it with its fingers and nods approval. Aladdin lies back on the tiles. Remember the cave, he asks. Of wonders, she says. It was loud with treasure, he says. This is quiet with it. Jasmine smiles at that. She thinks of how a city grows, not by markets alone, but by evenings like this, where nothing is bought and everything is kept. She arranges 3 lanterns into a triangle the way she once balanced 3 thoughts. Self, people, place, they hold. Raja lifts his head, listening. Somewhere a night bird sings 4 notes and waits for an answer. Another bird tries, misses, tries again, finds it. Jasmine laughs softly and hums the line to herself until the birds decide to rest. She breathes. In for 4. Sand, spice, hot stone, cooling. Out for 6. A breeze that knows where to go and how to come back. In for 4. The steady pulse of the city's sleep. Out for 6. The soft clink of glass seeds learning to be stars. She looks across the rooftops. Tiny lanterns begin to appear on other houses as if the idea has jumped like a cat, silent and sure from ledge to ledge. Someone sets 3 in a straight row. Someone else makes a circle. A girl shapes a heart, and then, embarrassed, changes it to a moon. It is all good. Thank you, Jasmine whispers, to the city that raised her and challenged her and learned with her. The thanks travels outward without hurry. It tucks itself under doors, settles on pillows, rests in teacups, curls in baskets of bread, waits in cool jugs of water for morning mouths. Aladdin drapes a shawl over her shoulders she did not notice she needed. He does that sometimes, fixes a thing before it breaks. She squeezes his hand once. It means more than once. They sit side by side, not filling the silence, just wearing it like a soft robe. The carpet nudges their ankles, content, eyes half closed. Raja snores in a way that says he is a king in his dreams and a kitten, too. Good night, Jasmine tells Agrabah, and each roof takes its share of the wish. Good night, she tells the stars, both above and below. Good night, she tells you, if you are anywhere in a city that needs a small quiet and a little light. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Pocahontas. The river hums at dusk. Evening leans over the water. The river lays itself flat to make a bed for the sky. Willow leaves trail green fingers in the current and come away cooler than before. The canoe nose touches the bank, then slides out again, its wood remembering the hands that shaped it. Pocahontas settles on the center plank, paddle resting across knees. The river moves without being asked. A heron lifts a leg, considers, then decides to stand where it is standing. Crickets begin their counting. Somewhere behind the trees, a fox laughs once and then thinks better of it. What is the quietest color? Pocahontas asks the kind of question the river never refuses. Grandmother Willow rustles. Listen with your breathing, she says, voice like bark that has learned to be soft. Pocahontas dips her fingers. The water takes them in as if welcoming home a traveler who never left. Ripples spread in circles, wide and shallow, then fade as if they never were. She watches the circles go, and her thoughts go with them, each one gentler than the last. She lets the paddle slide into the water and pulls once. The canoe obeys like a friend walking beside her, not following, not leading, with. The banks drift by. Ferns bow. Stones hold their shape with humble pride. Fireflies start their lamps, not all at once, 1, then 2, then a scatter, like a sentence coming clear word by word. She breathes the willow into her chest. In for 4. Green tea, damp earth, something sweet she cannot name. Out for 6. The long exhale of a day that was busy being good enough. What is the quietest color? She asks again, but now she asks without asking. The river hums an answer that is not a word. It is a shade. It is the place on a feather where the light turns to shadow without a line. It is the purple before night, and the blue after day, and the gray that holds them both without argument. Pocahontas smiles. I see it, she says, and her voice makes a ring on the water that does not need to spread to know it is true. She trails the paddle on one side, then the other. The canoe lefts its mind to the movement and curves. The river gives her shapes to follow, a loop that feels like forgiveness, a straight run that feels like honesty, a bend that teaches patience, because what is around it is worth waiting to meet. A family of ducks crosses, the smallest one forgetting how to be a duck for a moment and becoming a tiny whirlwind. Its mother nudges it with a bill that has known many such moments and never made a problem of them. Grandmother Willow sighs again. Some answers are the kind you wear, she says. Pocahontas ties a thin reed around her wrist. It is the quiet color now, not because it changed, but because she can see it. She thinks of friends in places with no river. She wishes them a moment of shade like this, a little stillness that feels like being understood. She thinks of the day's small, hard pieces, a word spoken too sharp, a task not finished, a hunger that is not for food. She sets each on the surface beside the canoe and lets the current take it. The river is not a dumping ground. It is a path. The hard pieces float away and soften, because moving things often do. She leans her head back. The sky becomes a bowl, the first star's salt scattered on its inside. The quiet color deepens. It is not sad. It is full. She paddles once and slides beneath a hanging limb. The leaves comb her hair. She laughs softly, which makes a frog on a rock approve of her, if frogs do that. She puts the paddle across the canoe again and lets the river choose for a while. It always did, with or without her permission. It's gentle to admit it. When she reaches the wide place where stones make little songs, she stops just to listen. Each stone has chosen a sound. Together they speak comfort in a language of drops. Pocahontas closes her eyes, and the sound lays a cool cloth over every warm thought she had. In for 4, Grandmother Willow says, proud of her student. Out for 6, Pocahontas answers, proud of her teacher. Good night, she tells the river, which is an odd thing to say to something that never sleeps. It understands anyway. Good night, she tells the duck family, who are now all exactly as duck as they intend to be. Good night, she tells the quietest color, which does not need good night, but likes to be spoken to just the same. She tells it to you, too, this color she cannot show, but you can feel. It is the space in your chest that the breath learns to love. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Mulan. Garden of Rested Swords. Moonlight lays long bars across the courtyard. Lanterns hang like calm thoughts along the eaves. The koi move in slow circles, drawing silver rings that widen and vanish, the way worry does when you let it. Mulan slides the gate closed with 2 fingers. The night clicks into place, not locked, just settled. She carries a practice sword, blunt from years of learning. She sets it on the bench and bows to it, then lifts it, then bows again. Respect is a circle, too. She breathes through her nose and lets the day leave her shoulders. The day was a stack of small things done well, letters answered, hands held. A laugh that surprised her and stayed. There was also a memory that arrived without knocking, a moment of fear from long ago. She showed it to the garden. The garden filed it under things we survived, and the memory left with its head held. Mushu snores by the brazier. He has claimed a tile that remembers sun. His chest rises and falls as if a rhythm section were practicing under his ribs. Crickets sing a steady beat. From the ancestor wall, a tiny bell answers now and then, like an elder murmuring in a dream. Mulan lifts the practice sword for the last time tonight. She holds it in both hands and feels how her grip has changed. It is not tighter, it is gentler. She moves once through a form she learned as a girl. The steps remember her, even where her body has forgotten. They meet in the middle and forgive each other. She stops and bows to the empty air. "Thank you," she says. Not sure if she speaks to the sword, the steps, the night, or the version of herself who kept going when going was a hill. All of them answer. She lays the sword down on a folded cloth. She will not hang it tonight. Tonight it rests on the bench, close to the bench that holds the tea set. She pours from a small pot that has a crack only she knows. The cup takes the heat and does not complain. She adds nothing. The tea tastes like clean earth and time. She walks to the ancestor wall. The charcoal portraits breathe with the house. She lights a stick of incense and places it in the sand. The curl of smoke writes a message she cannot read but understands. "I am still here," it says. "So are you." She sets the cup near the brazier and sits with Mushu. He mumbles, "Who's there?" without opening his eyes. She strokes the place between his eyebrows with the back of her knuckle. His whole body agrees that everything is all right. On the far side of the courtyard hangs a cloth target, punctured by years of arrows. The holes look like stars if you let your eyes soften. She thinks of archery in the snow, of the discipline of a straight line, of the cleverness of a curve. She thinks of rice planted in rows, of families at tables, of the way a street will hold the sound of a child's feet, even after the child has grown. Strength is many shapes. The koi circle. She counts. 1 ring, 2, 3. Her breath follows. In for 4. The tea's steam disappears into the midnight blue. Out for 6. Lantern light wobbles once, then steadies. In for 4. The softness in her palm where a sword's hilt used to rub. Out for 6. The lightness where a burden used to sit. She lifts a brush and opens a blank page. Not to plan a battle. To write a poem. The characters come slow. She does not chase them. She gives them room. The poem is small and says only what it must. Steel on the wall, tea in the cup, moon on the water. Hands open up. She smiles at the plainness of it. Plain things keep. She tucks the paper under a smooth stone. Tomorrow she will forget the words and remember the feeling. That will be enough. From the street beyond the wall comes the sound of sandals and laughter. Then quiet. Then a dog sighs. The city lays down. Mulan takes the sword again, one last bow. She wraps the cloth around it as if tucking a child. Rest, she tells it. You have done more than you know. She places it on the bench and sets a single blossom beside it. Not as decoration. As proof that care and courage sit side by side. She lifts the cup and drinks the last of the tea. Warmth goes out into her fingers and toes, the places that forget first and remember last. She closes her eyes. Good night, she says to the ancestors who smile in their frames without moving. Good night, she says to Mushu, who snores in the key of content. Good night, she says to you, if there is anything you have been holding too long. Lay it down here a while. This garden will keep it safe until you are ready to carry it again, or maybe you will not need to. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. A candle leaves a hand and enters the night like a thought that has made up its mind to be gentle. Its flame is small, and so it learns to be steady. It moves from library to rooftop, from riverbank to garden, carried by palms that know when to shield and when to share. The wick remembers every breath that has blown across it. Belle's breath tasted like tea and paper. Jasmine's like spice and cool stone. Pocahontas is like willow shade. Mulan's like steam from a cup that told the truth. The candle walks on, and the night leans down to listen. It stops by a door, and a tired heart inside sleeps better. It pauses under a window, and a child decides not to be afraid of shapes the curtains make. It rests on a wall and becomes a star for a moment, just enough to show a path from here to bed. Follow it with your breathing. In for 4, the wax settles. Out for 6, the flame bows and returns. When the candle reaches you, it is not to ask you to hold it. It is to remind you that light is a visitor that calls you by your name. In for 4. Out for 6. Rest. Tiana. Midnight beignets. Starlight. The sign on the cafe door says closed in handwriting that knows how to be kind. Inside, chairs stand on tables like polite dancers practicing balance. The kitchen is tidy, every pan right side up, every spoon asleep in a drawer. The clock over the door keeps time softly so as not to wake the dough. Tiana ties on an apron anyway, not to work, to play. The bowl waits with its rim shining. Flour falls in a white drift. Eggs crack with a small, brave sound. Milk makes a pale river. She stirs until the batter is smooth enough to see her reflection for a second. Then it goes back to being batter, which is all it ever wanted to be. She lets it rest. Rest is an ingredient people forget. She has not forgotten. She leans against the counter and listens to the street. Jazz far off, like someone swaying on a porch and not minding who sees. A train sighs. A couple laughs. A dog barks and then remembers the time and decides to dream instead. She remembers promising herself a night off. She keeps it. She does not scrub anything that is already clean. She does not write a list. She takes a little plate, sprinkles it with sugar, and smiles because the sugar looks like it is snowing in August. Louis's shadow swells in the doorway before he does. You cooking? He whispers, as if whispering will keep the smell a secret. Just enough, Tiana says. Just for us. He takes out his horn and plays 3 notes under his breath, nothing loud, just the hello that sounds like a hug. He sets the horn down, washes his hands very seriously, and stands ready to catch beignets on a cooling rack like a fisherman with a fine net. Tiana heats the oil. It moves from quiet to talking to singing. She drops a spoonful of batter and watches it turn itself into a golden pillow. She flips it with a wooden stick and smiles when it puffs. She drops another and then another. Louis hums in time. The kitchen becomes a small band. Oil on rhythm, spoon on melody, hum on harmony. Ray's star peeks through the window over the sink. It blinks like someone who stayed up to keep her company and will not be tired tomorrow for it. Tiana tilts her head to it. "Evening," she says, and sprinkles sugar on the first finished beignet. The sugar melts a little, then stays. She stacks 3 on a plate. She carries them to the front, where the tables wait for morning feet. She sits at one and tears the corner off. Steam curls up. She blows once and then bites. The outside is crisp. The inside is a cloud. It tastes like hard work learning to be soft. Louis joins her with a cup of chicory coffee. He dunks and sighs without shame. "That," he says, "is a lullaby with edges." Tiana laughs. "I'm writing a menu," she says. "Not tonight, tomorrow. It starts with the slow Sundays. Rule 1, we do what makes us breathe deeper. Rule 2, we serve joy first." Louis nods as if he has been waiting to hear it. "Rule 3, he adds, nobody eats alone who don't wanna." "Rule 3, she agrees, and writes it in the air with her finger, as if the room will remember. Neighbors pass the window and wave without stopping. Tiana waves back. She thinks of how the cafe holds stories the way a pot holds gumbo, letting every piece keep itself and still belong. She thinks of her daddy and the promises he kept even when they were heavy. She touches the counter with the palm of her hand and feels the wood say, "You did it. Now rest." She breathes. In for 4. Fried dough, coffee, trumpet varnish, summer night. Out for 6. The relief of making something simple and letting it be enough. In for 4. The hum of a city that sings even in its sleep. Out for 6. The steady beat of her own work-soft hands. She packs 2 small paper bags. She writes in short letters. For the night guard, for the nurse heading home, for whoever needs a sweet. She sets them by the door with a note that says, "Take one, please, and thank you." The please is important. The thank you is more so. She turns off the fryer. The oil settles, then goes still. She wipes the counter once because it feels good. She leaves a beignet on a saucer for tomorrow's first light to taste. "Good night," she tells the cafe, which has learned how to be a home for strangers. "Good night," she tells Louis, who tips his hat and hums his way into the street. "Good night," she tells you, if you have a promise you mean to keep to yourself. Keep it by resting. Keep it by sweetness. Keep it by sitting a while and letting the night make you gentle. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Rapunzel, quiet paint, gentle lanterns. The studio smells like brushes washed clean and sun-warmed wood. Canvases lean against the wall in a patient row. A jar of water holds the day's colors in a soft swirl, like a small storm that forgot how to be loud. Rapunzel pads in barefoot, hair braided in a simple loop, a lantern ribbon tied at the end like a promise kept. Pascal blinks from the windowsill and changes from leafy green to the soft blue of evening sky. He approves of the hour. She lights 3 small lanterns and sets them on the floor in a triangle, the shape that makes her feel steady. She rolls out a fresh canvas. It looks like snow before any footsteps. She dips her brush in the jar and lifts it, and a drip falls and makes the first mark. She smiles. The hardest part is done. She paints a map, not of roads, but of kindness she saw today. Here is the curve of a woman's hand handing a pear to a child who is not hers. Here is the shape of 2 guards sharing a joke with their backs to each other, the safer way to laugh. Here is a tiny square that is a window, and in the window a candle, and in the candle a flame that knows when to be bright and when to be small. She paints in slow strokes. She leaves space. She does not correct every edge. The painting breathes with her. In for 4. Pigment, linen, faint wax from the lanterns. Out for 6. The hush that grows as the picture finds what it is. Pascal wanders across the bottom of the canvas and leaves a perfect little lizard foot trail. She whispers, "Thank you," because it was exactly the right thing to happen, and she would not have planned it. Memory arrives, not heavy, and she opens her palm to it. The tower, the window, the world small and far. The fear was true then. It is a story now. She adds a pale wash of gold across the top corner. Dawn light. She lets it drip. She tilts the canvas and watches the line wander. Freedom looks like that. A knock, while it is not a knock, comes from the window. A lantern outside bumps the glass and waits. She opens the latch and pulls it in. It is from the town square, a leftover from tonight's small celebration. She sets it on the sill. Its paper is thin and brave. She ties to it a ribbon that once held her hair when she was still learning not to hide. She paints more places on the map. The bakery, where the baker's son burned a tray of buns and laughed instead of apologizing, and his father laughed too, and they ate the burned ones with jam and called them lucky. The apothecary, where a woman measured out hope in drops, steady and careful. The bridge, where 2 strangers stopped to watch the water and did not speak and did not need to. Rapunzel stops to sip chamomile. The cup warms her hands and patience thickens like honey. She steps back and the canvas comes forward, suddenly itself. It glows without shining. It holds without asking. She hums, not the healing song she used when the world was all edges, but a resting song, the kind you sing with half a voice because the other half is sleeping. The lanterns on the floor flicker in time until they decide they are the ones keeping beat and proceed with dignity. She lifts the window and lets in a ribbon of night air. In the distance, someone releases a lantern, then another. The sky gathers them, saying, "Come along, I will keep you." She touches the ribbon tied to the studio lantern and feels the old ache turn into a new warmth. She breathes. In for 4. Paint, paper, the faint sweetness of tea. Out for 6. The feeling of a room that has learned how to hold joy without gripping. In for 4. The brush light in her fingers, honest work that does not take more than it gives. Out for 6. The soft weight of Pascal on her shoulder. She signs the bottom corner with the smallest R. She blows the paint dry with a breath she did not know she was saving. She turns down 2 lanterns. She leaves one lit, the one by the window. It can watch the sky for her until morning. "Good night," she tells the map. which is also a diary and also a promise. Good night, she tells the lanterns going up from the town, each carrying a wish that knows how to be gentle. Good night, she tells you, if you are learning how to paint a day with small kindness and let it be enough. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Merida, hearth of Dunbroch. Rain braids itself against the castle walls, a steady plait of silver that never pulls too tight. Stone holds the weather like an old friend's arm, solid, unbothered. Inside, the great hall glows from a peat fire that has learned to breathe like a living thing. Deep, low, patient. Sparks drift and settle like small birds find roost. Merida kicks off her boots at the threshold and sets her bow upon 2 pegs that know its weight. The bow rests as if it were always part of this wall, grain to grain, curve to curve. Her quiver hangs beside it, arrows fletched in the colors of heather and dusk. Tonight they sleep. She drapes her cloak over the back of a chair, squeezes water from the hem, and laughs when 3 droplets leap off and land upon the tip of her nose. The cubs, still cubs in her heart even when they are not, tumble out from behind a bench, yawn like tiny bears who think they are enormous, and collapse in a heap at her feet. She scratches the spot between her ears the way the old keeper taught her, the circle that tells a young creature, you are safe, you belong, be soft now. Fergus's laughter rolls in from the corridor before he does. It's the kind of sound you can lean against. Caught the rain, then? He says, shaking his hair like a dog despite the crown that sits crooked upon it. Let the rain catch me, Merida replies, and the words make Eleanor smile as she enters with a folded length of blue wool across her arms. A cloak's edge has frayed, Eleanor says, lifting it so the firelight shows the worn places. Her hands are deft, the kind that can teach you how to be careful without speaking. Will you mend it? Merida takes the cloak and the needle Eleanor offers. The steel flashes once, a star in a small sky, then returns to small work. She threads a length of yarn the color of storm calm and settles by the hearth in her favorite chair, the one with a hidden wobble she can rock with the weight of her foot. To mend is to remember. She turns the wool in her lap and sees the places it has been, a hillside full of thistle and wind, a saddle slick with rain, a morning of fog when the world seemed like a room you'd seen before but couldn't name. The worn edge is not weakness. It is a story she can hold between finger and thumb. Eleanor sits with a basket near her feet, quiet as a candle, and begins to sort ribbons, buttons, bits of thread as if arranging a map of small mercies. Fergus wanders to the table, pulls a bannock from a cloth, tears it with 2 thumbs, and leaves the crumb-studded half within easy reach. He pretends he meant to put it there. He did. Tell us a daft story, lass, Fergus says, dropping into a bench that could tell stories of its own if benches spoke. One with bravery and no monsters, if you can manage it. Merida smiles, eyes on the needle's path. I know one about a baker, she says, who saved a village with scones. Fergus slaps his knee. All the best heroes have butter on their hands. The cubs twitch their ears like they are listening even while they sleep. Merida begins. There was a storm that wouldn't leave, she says, voice low, as if telling the fire so it can carry the words along the stone. The roads were mud, The fields drowned, and the people sat by windows and watched the sky forget how to change its mind. Food ran thin in larders, tempers thinner. The baker had flour enough for a day, and no more. He set it upon the board and listened. Some say the board spoke to him. How to knead, how to fold, how to count his blessings in handfuls. He made scones one by one and set them on the sill to cool because his house was warmer than the oven. He told anyone who passed that the price was a story, not coin, a story. By supper time, the village was fed, and the baker's basket was full of stories, a song about Roans, a joke told wrong and somehow better for it, a memory of a green ribbon lost and found. The storm did not leave that night, but it knew it was not the only thing in the world. Eleanor's eyes softened, the particular soft that travels from mother to daughter without asking. Fergus reaches for the half-bannock he had not planned to share and finds that, in the telling, he has gone and pushed it closer to Merida. She mends. The thread moves like a path through the tall grass. Patience is not her first language, but she has learned to speak it when it matters. Stitch after stitch, she gives the cloak its strength back. Not new, not pretending never worn, but made whole in a way only time can teach. Rain deepens. The wind tries every chink in the stone and fails politely. From the high window, a draft brings in the scent of peat and wet heather, and the faint keen of a distant pipe. The hall absorbs it and answers with crackle and glow. Merida sets the needle down and takes up the bannock. It breaks with a clean sigh. She spreads a thumb of honey, late summer caught and saved, across the warm face and closes her eyes upon the first bite. Outside is weather. Inside is harvest. Both can be true at once. She looks to her bow, speaks to it without moving her mouth. Thank you for the straight lines that taught me how to aim my wild. Rest now. The bow understands in the way good tools do. Eleanor places a folded shawl upon Merida's shoulders, the blue one that is never quite decided if it belongs to mother or daughter, and therefore belongs to both. You are mending, Eleanor says, eyes on the cloak. Words for more than that. And being mended, Merida answers, surprising herself with the plainness of it. Fergus stands and puts another peat on the fire. Flames lean and then find new shape. He hums a tune that fits the hour, no chorus, just a line that rises and rests like hills across a horizon. Merida watches the cubs. One paw jerks in sleep. A dream of running, perhaps. She lays a palm upon the curly heads, the way you can calm a dream without waking it. Their breathing eases into a round, steady rhythm. She breathes with them. In for 4. Smoke sweet and not sharp. Wool warm under fingers. The clean oil upon the bowstring. Out for 6. The letting go of all the day's quickness. The long release that turns a warrior into a daughter, into a woman, into a person, simply sitting by firelight in her own home. She picks up the needle for the last seam, closes it with the smallest backstitch, knotted neatly and hidden like a secret the fabric will keep. She runs her knuckles down the edge. The cloak is ready for another year of weather. Good night, she tells the storm, as if it were a neighbor who overstayed and is forgiven for it. Good night, she tells the hall, which holds their echoes lightly so morning won't wake to a house already too full. Good night, she tells you, if you need courage of the quiet kind, the kind with thread and fire and the choice to rest. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. you are home. Moana sails furled ocean dreams. Night folds itself across Motunui in a pattern the old navigators could read by touch. Palms sway with a sound like distant applause, approving of the breeze. The lagoon lays its glass upon the sand. Waves arrive and bow, so steady the heart can copy them without effort. Moana ties her hammock between two patient trees. The knots learn her hands and hold. She sets a shell on the ground, Grammatala's favorite, the one with the spiral that keeps stories, and bows to it, the way you bow to a teacher who never needed a classroom. The moon makes a path on the water, and then changes its mind and makes another. The ocean laughs without noise and answers with a light push upon her ankle, as if to say, "Sleep here. I'll keep watch." In the village, cooking fires shrink to red thoughts. A child laughs in a dream and turns over. A dog does not bark. A rooster, confused, tries one crow and is scolded by a dozen sudden hushes, feathered and firm. He tucks his beak under his wing and repents until dawn. Moana fingers a length of braided fiber. She ties on shells one by one, small ones for small thank yous, larger ones for promises that took time. A pendant with a chip at the edge for the day the canoe did not capsize because she listened. A smooth piece of sea glass for the morning she apologized first. A tiny carved fish for the lesson a wave taught her by refusing to be pushed. She lifts the bracelet and fastens it to her wrist. It does not jingle. It lies against her skin like another pulse. "For you, Grandma," she says, and the ocean whispers a sibilant answer that could be love or could be tide, which might be the same thing. She does not unroll a map. She looks up. The sky is a book with 1,000 familiar characters. She greets them. There is the shark-tooth arc and the fishhook curve and the long canoe that crosses from east to west and back again. Not because it must, but because traveling is its way of staying. The stars blink slowly, the way old friends do when they don't need words to prove they have listened. Maui's name is a grin in her mind. She laughs and shakes her head. "Rest, big guy," she says, because even demigods should be told to stop saving things after dark. A breeze, cheeky as a younger cousin, plucks a flower from behind her ear and tosses it toward the lagoon, where it lands and becomes a small boat for a beetle who never dreamt of such luck. She thinks of all the roads that look like water, paths through forests her feet have not met, songs that carry a person from one home to another without moving a body. She thinks of people whose names she learned in storms and calms, whose hands pulled her into boats and out of thinking too small. She wraps gratitude around them, like a net that does not trap, only gathers. Moana climbs into the hammock and lies still. The weave knows her. It gives where she asks and holds where she needs. Beyond her toes, the reef makes its slow thunder, deep and friendly. The earth's enormous drum keeping time so she does not have to. She lets her shoulders drop. It turns out they were lifted, just a little, against no weight at all. A thin line of bioluminescence sketches the curve of the shore. Every step a crab takes writes blue script that fades as soon as it says enough. She finds herself smiling at the thought that even in sleep, the island keeps a soft light where light is kindest, low near the ground, near the feet of those who walk. The ocean rolls up to touch her heel and roll back. It does this again and again until her breath learns the shape of water. In for 4, like the slow swell that lifts a canoe. Out for 6, like the longer slide that carries it home. She practices a navigator seeing without opening her eyes. Where's the wind? There, slung low, tired from a day spent combing the hills. Where are the swells? 2 sets, crossing politely, each apologizing at the meeting, and softening their shapes for the other. Where's your center? Here, where hammock and skin and leaf shadow meet. She speaks to the ocean as she might to a grandparent on a porch. Thank you for bringing us back, she says. Thank you for days when we do not go at all. The ocean, unoffended by gratitude it does not need, sends up a tiny wave that kisses the sand and leaves it smoother than it was. A fish far out jumps once for joy and then decides wisely that joy can also be staying underwater and simply knowing you could leap again if you wanted. A thought arrives and sits at the edge of her mind. Tomorrow. Roots, repairs, a lesson for a child who wants to hold a paddle like a sword. Moana smiles into the dark and lets the thought stay without growing teeth. It can be what it is, a guest who knows not to knock in the night. She hums a tune that sounds like the ribs of a canoe when a hand checks them for cracks. She sings words that are mostly breath. She remembers the line of sunlight that lives at the bottom of the sea, the one that taught her that light visits everywhere eventually if given time and a path. A cloud arrives and lends the moon a veil. Stars pry open a crack in it with quiet insistence. The sky is a democracy where no one needs to win when everyone can shine a little. Good night, Moana tells the ocean. Who does not mind being told a thing it never does? Good night, she tells the island, whose trees answer by not creaking. Good night, she tells you, if you have come back from something and are surprised at how heavy peace can be until you let it rest on you properly. In for 4, out for 6. Wave and return. Home and home again. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. A star leaves its place and does not fall. It drifts. Perhaps it was always drifting, and you have only just learned to see movement slow enough to be a kind of stillness. It crosses the slice of sky visible from a farmhouse window, a castle parapet, a hammock strung between 2 trees, the mouth of a cave where someone waits for the rain to spend itself. It passes over a table where a book sleeps open, to a line someone will reread in the morning and think was written in the night for them alone. It passes over a rooftop where lantern seeds glow in the shapes of animal and flower and word. It passes over a river that keeps secrets by telling them to the sea. It passes over a garden where a practice sword rests on cloth and a poem dries beneath stone. The star is not a sign. It is not an answer. It is a companion that refuses to hurry you. Watch it with your breath. In for 4, its slow shift. Out for 6, the longer tail of light you imagine it carries because it pleases you to do so. If you cannot see it from where you are, imagine you can. Your imagining is not less real for being inside your head. Someone on the other side of your night looks up and sees it for you and does not know they are doing you a favor, which is the best kind of favor. The star slips behind a cloud and then out again, as shy as a child entering a room full of music and realizing no one is watching for them to dance, so they dance. Let your breath be the star's pace. Let your thoughts be the cloud that does not keep it, only softens the way you look. The drift continues whether you watch or sleep. That is a part of the gift. In for 4, out for 6. Rest. Anna. Fireside in Arendelle. Snow falls the way good ideas arrive, quietly, steadily, with no need to prove themselves. Arendelle tucks in under white. Roof lines soften. Street lamps wear little hats. Footprints appear and fill, so the evening looks brand new every few minutes, as if kindness keeps rewriting it. Inside the castle, the great hearth speaks in orange syllables. A copper kettle hangs just above the flames, the bottom blackened by years of doing its job. The stone floor holds the day's warmth like a memory that chose to stay. Anna pads in, wearing wool socks that do not match on purpose. One is pine green, one is cranberry red. Together, they look like a decision made while laughing. She sets a tray on the low table. Cocoa powder, sugar, cinnamon, a tiny jar of vanilla, and a mountain of marshmallows. Olaf swore he counted correctly this time. She glances at the door. Olaf slides in with the gravity of a diplomat and the grace of a snowflake on polished wood. "I have conducted an audit," he announces. "And there are exactly a lot." He beams at the bowl of marshmallows. "Also, Sven promised not to steal any." He leans toward Sven, who stands at the threshold, with breath fogging in little puffs. Sven blinks the innocent blink of reindeer who have never once been wrong in their lives. Kristoff follows, cheeks pink from the courtyard, hair full of snowflakes that refuse to melt because his hair has declared itself a winter wonderland. He shakes his head once. Snow scatters in tiny constellations. Anna laughs and pats the cushion beside her. He sits, a weight that the couch loves to carry. "Rest day," Anna says, and writes the words with her finger in the air as if the room will remember them. "For the whole staff, one day soon. No chores, no duties. Just cocoa, music, long breakfasts, longer naps. We'll cover the basics with volunteers and bribes." "Bribes?" Olaf asks, delighted. "Extra marshmallows," Anna says, and Olaf sighs in relief at the moral clarity of it all. She warms milk in the kettle and watches the first tiny bubbles collect at the edges. She turns down the flame, patient. Cocoa should never hurry. She scoops powder into the pot, stirs with a wooden spoon that has stirred many winters. Sugar joins, then cinnamon, then a drop of vanilla that opens the whole room like a window. Steam curls in ribbons. She tastes with the cautious lip of a queen who respects tongues. It is right. She pours mugs. Olaf counts aloud as each marshmallow goes in, 1, 2, 3, then loses count and begins again, which is its own kind of joy. Sven rests his chin on Anna's knee, eyes on the mug with the expression of a saint, faced with temptation and prevailing through the power of hope and the possibility of a stray marshmallow. Anna folds her legs under her and opens a notebook. The paper is thick enough to forgive mistakes. Her pencil is dull on purpose. Sharp things can wait for morning. She writes, "Rest day." Under it, she lists names. Gerda, blankets. Kai, lanterns. Kitchen team, breads and jams. Stable hands, sled rides around the courtyard for anyone who wants to be 5 years old again. She writes music and looks at Kristoff. "I can borrow Oaken's old lute," he says. "It only plays in the key of content." "Perfect," Anna says. She adds, Olaf, official marshmallow counter and hug department. Olaf gives a formal bow that ends in a giggle. From the window, the town glows. Bakeries closing, windows fogging with supper steam, a girl drawing hearts on cold glass and erasing them just to draw them again. Anna presses her hand to the pane and feels the firm cold say, "I am here, and I am not the enemy." She looks down at the courtyard where two footmen are quietly making a snow bench beside the gate for people who want to sit and listen to nothing for a while. She adds snow seating. A small ache knocks, soft, familiar. Did she do enough today? Did she miss someone? She looks around the room. The fire is a friend who never asks for anything it doesn't give. The kettle sings low. Kristoff leans back, long legs stretched, the picture of a man who knows a good evening when it finds him. Olaf composes a marshmallow poem out loud. Fluffy, puffy, stuffy. Now that's noses lovely. Sven snuffles in agreement. Anna breathes. In for 4. Chocolate wool, pine, wood smoke that means home instead of hard work. Out for 6. The thought of a whole castle exhaling at once. In for 4. The weight of the pencil in her hand. A small tool that moves big things when patient. Out for 6. The idea that rest is a gift you give others and yourself without asking permission from the day. She begins writing notes, actual notes, not just lists. Little cards to slip under doors and into pockets. Thank you for how you greet mornings without scaring them. Thank you for remembering which chair creaks and fixing it without fanfare. Thank you for teaching the youngest stable hand to braid a mane without pulling. Thank you for humming in stairwells. Thank you for existing where I can see you and know the world is okay. Kristoff watches her write with that private smile of his. The one that says he is no longer surprised by the size of her heart, and is still amazed by it anyway. He sets down his mug and picks up the borrowed lute from beside the hearth. He plucks a slow pattern. The notes fall like flakes and melt in the ear. He sings a nonsense verse about cocoa that somehow feels like a folk song from long ago. Anna laughs and hums harmony. Sven adds the occasional agreeable snort on the beat. The door opens. A maid peeks in, hesitant. "Your Majesty," she begins, then blushes because the room has made formality feel overdressed. "Come sit," Anna says, patting the chair by the fire. "We're doing a test of rest day. It involves cocoa and doing nothing with enormous skill." The maid sits, uncertain for exactly 3 seconds before the chair teaches her how to trust it. Anna hands her a cup, drops 2 marshmallows with ceremony. "Official business," she says. The maid smiles the rare smile of a person who has been invited to be exactly as tired as they are. Olaf sidles close and pats the maid's sleeve. "My job is to check if you feel hugged," he explains. "Do you feel hugged?" "More and more," she says, a laugh slipping out like a tiny bell. Anna adds the maid's name to her list and writes beside it. "Remind her she matters every Tuesday for no reason at all." She closes the notebook and rests it on her lap. The fire lowers itself without losing heart. The snow outside thickens its hush. Time becomes a blanket instead of a ladder. "Tomorrow," Kristoff says, "we'll haul in extra wood so no one has to count logs." "And bake the big loaves," Anna says, "so no one has to pretend they're not hungry when they are." "And," Olaf starts. "And everybody gets a nap," Anna says. Non-negotiable. Olaf throws his twig arms in the air. At last, a monarchy that understands me. They laugh. The kind of laugh that falls out and stays where it landed, warming the floorboards. Anna leans her head on the back of the couch and looks at the ceiling beams. She remembers the first winter when fear felt like a lock inside her ribs. She remembers the first thaw when she realized fear had been ice and love was the sun. She remembers that bravery is not running into storms, it is letting the storms run out of you. She breathes again. In for 4. The soft clink of spoon on ceramic. The whisper of page on page. The steadying presence at her shoulder. Out for 6. The fatigue that finally trusts the room enough to unravel. Good night, she tells the snow, which chooses to fall more quietly in response. Good night, she tells the castle, which holds countless small sleepers as carefully as she would hold one. Good night, she tells you, if you are planning kindness for others while forgetting to schedule it for yourself. Put your name on the list, circle it twice. In for 4, out for 6. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Elsa, Northern Lights, Quiet Hearts. The balcony has learned her footstep and welcomes it with a cool, light echo. Beyond the balustrade, Arundel breathes in white and lets it out in silver. The fjord wears a calm sheet of ice that hums quietly, a winter instrument tuned to the key of listening. Above, the sky arranges silk upon silk. Green, blue, a hush of violet. The Aurora arriving without trumpet, leaving without goodbye. Elsa stands bareheaded, hair braided simply. No crown, no ceremony. The night knows her without it. Frost drifts from her fingers, not in shards, not in spikes, but in drawings, the thin lace of rivers seen from far above, the map a snowflake makes when it remembers how to be itself. This is not the ice of defense, not the architecture of fear. This is comfort made visible. She sketches a snowflake in the air and then lets it blur until it becomes a slow star, then nothing. She cups her hands and breathes into them. The mist blooms, meets the cold, and turns to a tiny glowing crystal that rests in her palm like a warm thought. She smiles, surprised and not surprised at once. Inside, the castle is quiet, except for the small, determined sounds of sleep. A guard's boot settling, a cat choosing a new corner. The faint comic snore of a reindeer who believes himself stealthy. Elsa closes her eyes and imagines each sound picking up a bit of her calm and carrying it down corridors, under doors, onto pillows. Magic is not only what leaves her hands, it is what leaves her attention and arrives where it is needed. She thinks of Anna, 2 floors below, laughter stored in her like a hearth you can't extinguish even if you wanted to. She feels for her in that sister sense that is not sight or sound, but direction. There, warm. A tug like a ribbon between hearts. Elsa sends a small flurry downward, not a chill, but a whisper of cool on Anna's cheek, the kind that says, I'm here, sleep happily. In the fireside room, Anna's mouth turns at the corner. Connection confirmed. Elsa leans against the stone and looks up into the slow river of light. She remembers other winters, sharp-edged, jittering with too much power held too tight. The world felt like thin glass. Her own name felt like a window you weren't allowed to open. She remembers the doorway of a hut, the smack of a door closing, her own footsteps quick with a fear that wasn't the world's doing, only her own. She breathes. In for 4. The taste of snow so clean it almost rings. Out for 6. The weight leaving her shoulders like cloaks slid from a hook. In for 4. The Aurora's slow pulse, an ancient tempo that asks nothing and offers everything. Out for 6. Gratitude, the kind that doesn't rush to find words. She makes small things. A snow mitten on the balustrade that warms itself. A tiny chair on the rail where a bird can sit without cold getting in its bones. A spiral on the stone that's only visible when you stand where she stands, because some gifts are meant for one person at a time. A question arrives that used to come with teeth. Am I doing this right? Tonight it comes with bare feet. She lets it in. She pours cocoa for it in her mind. She looks at the sky, at her hands, at the city that trusts her now, not because she is powerful, but because she is gentle with the power she has. The question sits and nods and becomes an answer by staying long enough to be understood. Footsteps approach, not quite careful enough to be a servant, not aimless enough to be a wanderer. Anna, of course, in a shawl, hair escaping whatever plan she had for it. She nudges the balcony door with her toe and grins. I felt the ribbon, she says, rubbing her cheek where the cool whisper landed. Elsa laughs, a sound that still surprises her when it escapes without permission. I sent it, she says, a little proud that she can say it, that magic and words can be in the same room now without breaking anything. Anna leans on the stone, shoulder to shoulder with her. They are quiet in the way people can be quiet when all the important talking has already happened in 100 other nights. The Aurora flexes a slow muscle across the sky. Down on the fjord, an ice crack murmurs and then settles, as if the earth stretched and found a better place to lie. Remember when I was scared of this, Elsa says, flicking her fingers to draw a small glowing strand of frost between them. It's a thread of light, not cold. It hums faintly, a note only they can hear. Anna's hand finds the thread and lays a finger on it. It doesn't burn, it doesn't freeze. It feels like when you touch the back of someone's hand and realize both of you are exactly the right temperature for each other. I remember, Anna says. I also remember pancakes and socks and making the world's worst scarf so it evens out. They laugh. The thread dissolves into sparkles that lift and vanish like a thought finally allowed to rest. Elsa looks at her sister's profile. Love arrives again as if it has been impatient in the hall and now rushes in, out of breath and pleased with itself. She doesn't try to hold it. She lets it stand beside her, leaning on the rail, kicking its feet, humming. She creates a tiny snow lantern on the railing between them, ice so thin it glows warm from the candles she imagined inside. The light is the color of safety. Anna shivers once and tucks deeper into her shawl. Elsa rests 2 fingers on the fringe. Warmth moves, not heat, but calm. How hot chocolate feels after the first sip. Anna sighs and relaxes as if someone loosened the string inside her. Rest day? Elsa asks. Scheduled and schemed, Anna says. Prepare your benevolence. Elsa smiles, always prepared. She lifts her hand. The Aurora obeys no one, but sometimes, if your breath is steady and your heart is quiet, it seems to answer. Tonight it folds a little, makes a low arch right above the balcony, as if lowering its head so they can see the stitches in its silk. The colors run together and then apart, arguing politely and agreeing without apology. Elsa breathes again, in for 4. Stone's cool solidity at her back, wool brushing her wrist, the whisper buzz of light overhead. Out for 6. All the old edges softening, the old armor collapsing into a pile she does not have to pick up. In for 4. The steady truth of Anna beside her. Out for 6. The deep relief of power becoming promise, not proof. Good night, she tells the sky, which has been awake a very long time and bears it well. Good night, she tells the city, in case some window is open and the words want to curl in and sleep on a sill. Good night, she tells you, especially if you have ever been afraid of the best thing about you. You can use it like this, to warm, to soften, to glow. In for 4, out for 6. Aurora in, winter out. Sister in, world out. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Raya, peace in the heart of Kumandra. Rain comes soft over Fang's rebuilt walls and Talon's glowing markets, over Tail's dunes cooling to purple, and Spine's dark pines steaming gentle in the mist. In Heart, rain beads along eaves and gathers in the palms of carved dragon statues, then spills in threads fine as hair. It is not the storm kind of rain. It is the stew on the fire, boots by the door, we made it home kind. Raya hangs her conical hat on the peg by the door and steps into the room barefoot so the floor can learn her again. Tuk-Tuk is already a round, breathing bundle, legs tucked, shell warm, snoring in a rhythm that sounds like a drum remembering a song. A small shard of the dragon gem glows on a low shelf, not bright, not showing off, just a steady blue like a whisper that keeps its promise. She lights one candle. Its flame is the size of a thumbprint, and content to be so. She sets a small pot on the hearth. The broth inside has been simmering all afternoon with ginger and star anise, and the ends of vegetables that still had something to say. She tastes with the back of the spoon and nods. The nod means someone who arrives late will still be fed. Raya lays out her travel blanket on the floor. Each corner bears a stitch from a different land. Tail's sand-colored knot, Talon's bright, tight spiral, Spine's long, steady line, Fang's sharp diamond now softened, Heart's open square. She runs her fingers along the seams and feels the shapes like memories you can touch. Tonight's work is quiet. Letters, not decrees, not plans. Notes for friends whose faces are on the inside of her eyelids when she closes them. She takes out paper made from rice straw and a brush that remembers every stroke she has ever asked of it. "Dear Belle," she writes, and smiles because he will read the dear out loud in a ridiculously royal voice and then pretend he didn't. "The boats look beautiful all in a row. Tell the shrimp they're allowed to nap between customers." She draws a tiny boat that looks nothing like a boat and will make him laugh. "Dear Noy and the Anchis," she writes next, "remember the market is quieter after midnight. Quieter is good for counting money and good for hearts. I put aside candied ginger for you. Do not trade it for 3 coconuts and a promise." She adds a small doodle of 3 coconuts and a very suspicious promise. "Dear Tong," she writes in letters as wide as his shoulders, "the gate beam you carved holds like you said it would. I can hear it say, 'I told you so,' when the wind knocks. Kiss the baby's foot from me." She pauses and presses the heel of her hand to the paper a moment longer. The pause means, "I remember when we were alone. We are not." Then the letter that always takes her breath and gives it back. Dear Namari, she does not write long, only what fits. The rain here sounds like rice. I am keeping your mother's proverb with the bowls. Give first, eat always. Tomorrow I'll ride to the ridge and look at Fang from Heart, and Heart from Fang, and be glad the view is one place now. She lifts the brush, holds it while the ink decides to stop, then sets it down. Sometimes peace is the wordless part. She ties each letter with twine. She seals them not with wax, but with a pressed leaf from a dragon's tooth herb. Medicine as promise and reminder both. She sets them in a stack shaped like hope. Not tall, not fragile, easy to carry with one hand when you need the other for greeting. Outside fireflies rise from the wet grass like green punctuation. They dot the air in a grammar the night can read. Tuk-Tuk lifts his head and blinks twice. His blinks mean, are we sleeping yet? Raya scratches the place just behind his ear plate, and his whole body agrees to wait patiently for sleep to begin. She ladles broth into a bowl and sits on the threshold to drink it, half in the room, half in the rain. Steam curls up and makes fog on her cheeks. The first sip is always the softest. The second tells you it meant what it said.